astronauts, it's me, Brandy, and welcome back to Astro-Tarot Research. We are back with another astrology video. This time, hopefully this is quick. I wanted to talk about Punarvasu. Now, I've already done a study on Punarvasu Nakshatra on my Instagram where I talked about the outer body experience and hypnosis and the being unaware. And I think I may have even mentioned mental illness a little bit, as well as abuses of drugs, etc. This video, I may talk about that a little bit more, but I really wanted to focus more so on the observations that I have made about Punarvasu. So recently I was watching this Korean drama and it was called True Beauty, and I haven't seen all of it because it's kind of very stereotypical, and so it's not as enjoyable for me to watch. But I've gotten to like episode 5, right? And True Beauty is a drama about a girl who is bullied for being quote unquote ugly, right? She has acne, she has glasses, she has a ponytail, like the very trope, like media version of ugly. And so one way you guys know, if you don't know, to study nakshatras is to do it through like movie, television shows. You can also do books, look up interviews, people's life stories, etc. I like to do everything. What I'm trying to say is, this character, she is bullied for her looks, and she ends up transferring to another school, and she discovers, you know, the power of makeup and decides to put on makeup and show up to her new school and essentially kind of create a new identity for herself as this beautiful young student. The character's nakshatra placement, sun, is in Punarvasu. And this story is essentially about inner beauty and confidence. And this is a theme that I see a lot in Jupiterian people's lives, not just Punarvasu, but we're talking about Punarvasu today. You have this strong theme of confidence and beauty. In fact, one of the videos that went viral, I think it was like last year or something, was a video entitled, I think it's I Don't Have Pretty Privilege by Stefko, I think that's her name. And Stefko has her son in Purvabhadrapada. And everything in that video is essentially the story of true beauty, right? You have someone's looks who are not who's not accepted by society standards of beauty, even though in fact they are a beautiful person. You know, everyone has their own unique beauty, right? So this is pretty much essentially the story of a lot of Jupiterian people, not all. As I was saying before my camera cut off, there are a large amount of Jupiterian people who feel like they have not been accepted into society or into the romantic world because of their looks, like where they feel like they have received a lot of harsh treatment or rejection based upon what they look like. And I mentioned this in my Black Beauty study. It's not up yet. This is the second one where I briefly talk about Jupiterian men kind of becoming like those pickup artists because they feel like there's this they're not a part of a group of men who can get by on their sexual magnetism. As I was talking about in the last video where I talked about Purvashada men being able to use their soft energy or soft power, which is using their physical desirability to attract women. Same with a lot of sun-ruled men. They can do this as well. And even moon-ruled men, I've seen it. But I do see that Jupiterian individuals generally may struggle in this area. And because of this, they have to think of real-world solutions in order to, I guess, I don't know, compensate, maybe the right word, or real-world solutions in order to be accepted into certain circles, whether that is, you know, work-wise or romantic-wise. So I've seen Jupiterian men, some of them may be really good at conversation. They may practice it, kind of like the pickup artists. Some of them may compensate by using their wealth or status, kind of like Kevin Samuels vibes, where he's talking about like high value men and things like that. You can see Jupiterian women going into either plastic surgery or, as I mentioned with True Beauty, kind of just using makeup to paint on a face or a look that they believe society will perceive to be more accepted. And they may even get that treatment where they are accepted now because of those things. I've even seen this with, forgive me, you guys know I have to look at my notes. So I came across this woman. Her name is Ariana Fletcher. And she came up on my TikTok feed really randomly. I don't follow her. I don't know much about her. All I know is when I opened the comments, I saw a lot of kind of rude things being said to her about her looks. But one of the main things people said is that they were kind of shocked about what her face looked like. And similarly to the story of the Korean drama True Beauty, people did not recognize Ariana Fletcher without her filters. A lot of people were saying, she looked totally different. And some people even made some really, really rude remarks, which I will not repeat. So basically, there becomes this theme where a lot of Jupiterian people will receive a good amount of criticism based upon their looks, and various different placements this can happen to. It happens to Saturnian people as well. In fact, in the TV show I was watching, True Beauty, the Jupiterian Punarvasu person thought she was friends with the Saturnian person who was also kind of bullied because of her looks, but that turned out not to be true. Saturnian people undergo a different kind of story though than Jupiterian people, where they usually gonna get bullied for their looks when they're younger, and then as they grow with age, they gonna get more celebrated for their looks. That's the general story. Obviously, different placements and aspects can change things. Versus Jupiterian people, it seems to be a very constant thing where they may undergo several different surgeries and people may still feel like, oh, it's not good enough. Oh, this person loses weight, still not enough. This person changes their face, still not enough, etc. like that. And this is not all Jupiterian people or Punarvasu people. In fact, I believe Margot Robbie has Punarvasu rising, and obviously she gets celebrated for being very, very beautiful. And then also you have a lot of Jupiterian people who get put in this sort of seductress role where they're very good at seducing and enticing people. So a very split story, but I did want to mention this because I saw it so much. I saw a lot of Jupiterian women in particular being open about their struggles with self-confidence. People like Alicia Cara, people like Little Kim, Courtney Love, Wendy Williams, who else I want to mention? Suzanne Summers. Various different Jupiterian women were opening up about the fact that either they did not realize they were beautiful, opening about the fact that they were bullied for their looks, especially Little Kim. You could see interviews where she said, guys would call her ugly. And in fact, she's obviously a very, very beautiful woman, especially back then. Alicia Cara said she struggled with confidence. Wendy Williams, she's said multiple times, talked about surgery for her looks and etc. And people still to this day kind of hassle her about it. So I do see the theme about Jupiterian people feeling like they aren't good enough. They feel like the interactions that they have with people imply that they are not good enough for those people, or good enough for somebody, or good enough for love, or good enough for a certain job, or good enough for, whatever it is that they, are desiring. Part of that, like I said, it could be their looks, it could be their status, it could be lots of different areas, but there does seem to be a huge issue of self-esteem when it comes to Jupiterian people. And I guess I could expand on that later sometime, but but that's something that I have noticed. Now, if Jupiterian people are not a part of that sort of struggle, if they overcome that struggle with self-esteem, or if they don't really kind of go through that, then they fall into that other Jupiterian category where they are very much like the seductress and or seductor, or the pickup artist, the master of kind of getting people to fall for their allure. That's something that I've seen a lot of Jupiterian people good at. They would try to find a way to utilize their strengths utilize the things that work best for them, and in order to get what they want. Because you see, I find a lot of Jupiterian people, if they put their mind to something, they can be very skilled in that area, which is why you see a lot of people kind of refer to Jupiterian people as nerds, because when they focus on something, they really, really focus on that subject. Even in the movie, sorry, I keep calling it a movie, even in the Korean drama that I watched, True Beauty, the Punarvasu native had a love for like comic books, and she knew all the latest editions, and she had first edition copies of certain things, and she knew those comic books back and forth. So when they focus on something, they really, really focus on it, and they have a large knowledge base for it. And so that's something that they can apply to the art of seduction, or something that they can apply to business, or something they can apply to just any area, fitness, whatever it is that they wish to apply that knowledge to. That's something that they can be quite good at. Another observation that I have noticed about Jupiterian people is that I've seen movies. One of the most famous examples of the movies that represent this attitude is Shallow Hal, and that stars Jack Black, who is Punarvasu Rising. So the movie Shallow Hal is about a man who only wants to go out with like very, very beautiful, attractive women, but he himself does not fit the beauty standard. So he gets hypnotized into seeing women's inner beauty. So a woman will only appear beautiful to him if she is beautiful on the inside. And so he falls in love with a character who is very, very overweight, and he only sees her as like this stick thin, beautiful goddess because she is just a beautiful person on the inside. We have a Jupiterian person chasing after someone who has all of the things that they are perceived by society not to have. And I have seen that in quite a few Jupiterian natives. And it's almost like a trope in society, almost like a common thing, not just in movies, but in real life too, where you have people where they feel like they have low value in society. And so in order to compensate for that, they may try to be with someone who's very successful, or they may try to be with someone very good looking, or someone who has a lot of fame, or something along the lines of that, or somebody that could say, oh, my wife or husband's a doctor, something like that. That's something that I've seen happen for a lot of Jupiterian people, where they themselves can get caught up in that shallow circle as well, where they may feel like, oh, they're being rejected by society, or they don't meet a certain standard, whether beauty, success, otherwise. And as a result, they're now chasing the things that they wish that they were. And so it can be almost hypocritical in that sense when it comes to Punarvasu people in general. So those are the themes I've noticed about Punarvasu in particular. Punarvasu, I saw it being more prevalent in, but I'm sure this applies to all the Jupiterian Nakshatras because I've seen it in the other Jupiterian Nakshatras. Another thing that we have with Punarvasu, I've talked about it on my post where I've talked about hypnotism and out-of-body experiences and astro travel and things about dealing with the psychic realm. I've seen Vishaka people have visions, or being portrayed to have visions in shows. There's one of my favorite shows, Medium, and there's a psychic on the show. She's Sun in Punarvasu, and at first I thought that Punarvasu was kind of like a placement for like unconscious psychic channeling, but when I looked at it more, I realized that it may come in an unconscious way or an uncontrolled way at first, but it can be controlled. It's not just the placement Charavana that can do this. Punarvasu people can also kind of control their psychic channeling as well. This psychic in particular was very funny because she was kind of like a psychic for psychics. It's almost like, you know, that Jupiterian master teacher role, right? Where do the therapists go to therapy? You know, it might be like a Jupiterian thing. Dr. Drew, I believe, has a Jupiterian placement, and obviously he's a therapist. So yeah, being a therapist is a thing for Jupiterian people, but pretty much any placement can be a therapist for the most part. But yeah, Jupiterian people do like to counsel others. I've seen them being presented as like sponsors for like alcohol, drug abuse, and things like along the lines of that. Just very much that sort of person to provide guidance and counseling to. That's very much a Punarvasu role. And one of the major things that I've seen with Punarvasu people has to do with a theme of humanization and dehumanization, and that kind of grows into the role of the superficialness and the being degraded based upon their look, status, etc., as well as their ability to do that to others. That's a major thing about Punarvasu, being able to protect and care for others, and to be able to see the humanity in everyone, and to go beyond the superficial and see the beauty within human connection. That's probably the major theme of Punarvasu, one of the major lessons that I saw over and over, because you would have Punarvasu people having cruel things done to them or doing cruel things to other people, and they would often regret it. And or another thing is they would often, like if they had something horrible done to them, like Malala, the young girl, I think she's a woman now, who survived being shot in the head. She continued to advocate for girls' education. She got shot because she was advocating for girls' education in the first place, where it was banned, I believe, by the Taliban. I'm not completely familiar with all the details of the story, but she's a very brave woman and was a very brave girl. And one thing that she said that was very Jupiterian was the fact that she was able to forgive her attacker, and she just didn't hold any hate in her heart for that person. And I've actually seen that nature kind of up front with a lot of Jupiterian people. Either they will be able to be this very kind of forgiving, loving person, very gentle nature, or they can be on the other side, kind of like that Jupiterian nature where they hold in the anger. Because a lot of people will perceive Jupiterian people to be just kind of very soft and kind of like pushover types, which they are. They're the type of people who have a very hard time saying no. For example, there was this movie, and I promise this isn't all from movies. This is from observations and people in real life too. But I'm just using the movies for examples. For Falling in Love, and it's starring Christina Milian. And Christina Milian drives up to this Jupiterian woman's property who invited her over, and she accidentally ran over the Jupiterian woman's roses and or tulips or flowers or something along the lines of that. And the Jupiterian woman, instead of like, you know, screaming and freaking out, she's just like, oh, those are my prized flowers. And, you know, Christina's like, obviously she wants to replace them. She's like, oh, I'm sorry for running them over. I'll try to replace them. She's like, they can't be replaced, but that's okay. Come inside. And it's this very like smiley nature. It's like a little bit passive aggressive because a lot of Jupiterian people, they will hold in the anger. So like I said, they can become very much like this very type of person who will hold in a lot of their anger inside. So you may not even see that angry side of them. They're more of like a quiet anger that I have seen, particularly for Jupiterian people. So those are the sides of the Punarvasu energy, or just Jupiterian energy in general. A lot of themes, like I said, of dehumanization. There's a lot of things I could talk about, like falling in love as well. How when they fall in love, it can be like this very, very intense process for them where they kind of like maybe lose their minds in a little bit. They just kind of go a little bit like literally love crazy. And I think there was this movie, and it did star a Jupiterian native, where it was literally about him kind of losing his marbles every time he fell in love, and they would just kind of speedball into this very I don't know if manic's the right word, but they become a little bit more unstable or irrational when they start kind of liking someone. And I've seen that for Jupiterian people in real life. I've seen them do this, where they come up with all these kind of rationales or things going on in this head, and this person is cheating on me with this person, or this person doesn't really like me because of this person, and why haven't they answered my call? It's been 3 days or 2 days or 5 hours or something along the lines of that. And they may have just met this person. So that's another thing. They can be very, very intense when they fall in love, or if they like someone, or if someone piques their interest. That is all I want to say about Punarvasu for now. As I mentioned before, we kind of noted on the psychic abilities and all that, but I wanted to post a quick video because I'm trying to post more. So I will see you guys next time, astronauts, and au revoir.